Millionaire invited his black cleaning lady as a joke, but she arrived like a queen and stunned everyone, inside a gleaming high-rise overlooking the city skyline. Laughter filled the air as Ethan Cross, a young, handsome millionaire with too much confidence and too little humility, leaned back in his leather chair. The room smelled of expensive cigars and power. Around him sat a handful of his wealthy friends and executives, all sipping champagne and bragging about the upcoming charity gala he was hosting. The event of the season, as Ethan called it. "Let's make it memorable," one of them joked. "Invite everyone, the mayor, celebrities, the press." Ethan smirked, swirling his drink. His eyes drifted toward the far corner of the room, where Maria Johnson quietly mopped the marble floor. She was dressed in her faded uniform, her movements slow but graceful, her posture dignified despite the work. For years she'd cleaned this office, invisible to the people who worked there. A sly grin spread across Ethan's face. "You know what? Let's invite her too," he said, pointing at Maria. "The cleaning lady. Imagine the look on people's faces!" The room burst into laughter. His friends thought it was the funniest thing they'd heard all week. One even clapped him on the back, saying, "Brilliant!" "That'll be hilarious." Maria's hands froze for just a moment on the mop handle. Her eyes flicked up, meeting Ethan's reflection in the polished glass wall. She didn't say a word, just kept working. But there was something in her gaze, a flicker of calm fire. Ethan, still amused, scribbled her name on an extra invitation and placed it on her cleaning card as he walked past. "Don't forget your fancy gown, Miss Johnson," he said mockingly. The men roared with laughter as they left the room. When the door finally closed and the echoes of their arrogance faded, Maria straightened her back. Her hands, calloused from years of work, picked up the gold-edged envelope. She studied it for a long time. Then, with a slow smile, she whispered almost to herself, "You want me there? Fine, but you'll wish you hadn't made me the joke." She slipped the invitation into her bag, her eyes glinting with quiet determination, the kind that could turn humiliation into transformation. The soft light of a single lamp filled Maria's modest apartment that night. The walls were lined with old photographs, memories of a life that hadn't always been this quiet. One photo showed a younger Maria standing proudly beside a mannequin, a half-finished dress draped across it. Her eyes were full of dreams then, the dreams she had put aside long ago when life demanded survival over ambition. She set the invitation on her small wooden table, next to her worn Bible and a chipped cup of tea that had gone cold. For a moment she just stared at it, the gold edges gleaming under the light. "Charity gala, black tie required." The words made her chuckle softly. They had invited her as a joke. They didn't expect her to come. But something inside her whispered that this was her moment to remind the world who she really was. She walked to the corner of her room and pulled out an old trunk from under the bed. It was heavy with memories. As she opened it, a faint scent of fabric and lavender drifted out. Inside lay neatly folded pieces of fine cloth, spools of thread, and sketches of gowns she had designed years ago. And right on top, wrapped carefully in tissue paper, was a golden evening gown. She had sewn it herself back when she was studying fashion design before life had taken her in a different direction. Maria ran her fingers across the smooth fabric. "Still perfect?" she whispered, smiling faintly. She lifted it up and the gown shimmered in the light, elegant, timeless, regal. Then came the transformation. She washed her hair, brushed it until it shone, and styled it into soft curls that framed her face. Her old vanity mirror wobbled slightly as she applied subtle makeup, just enough to enhance her natural beauty. Her hands trembled when she picked up a pair of gold earrings, a gift from her late husband. She fastened them with care, glancing at his picture on the wall. "You'd be proud of me tonight," she murmured. As she slipped into the gown, she felt different, taller, stronger, beautiful. She found her old heels, the ones she hadn't worn in years, and slipped them on. The woman who looked back at her in the mirror was no longer a cleaning lady. She was every bit the woman she had once dreamed of being, confident, powerful, radiant. She picked up the invitation again and smiled. "Let's see who laughs now," she said softly, her voice steady and sure, and with that she turned off the light, the reflection of her golden dress glimmering one last time in the mirror, a promise of what was to come. The grand ballroom shimmered with opulence that evening. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen fireworks from the high ceiling, scattering light across marble floors and golden drapes. Waiters in white gloves moved with quiet precision, balancing trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres, while an orchestra filled the air with soft, elegant music. Guests in designer suits and glittering gowns mingled beneath the chandeliers, their laughter blending with the sound of clinking glasses. Cameras flashed as journalists documented the city's elite. Everyone who was someone was there. At the center of it all stood Ethan Cross, handsome and confident, his smile sharp as ever. He was surrounded by admirers, basking in the attention, unaware that the joke he had started was about to turn back on him. "Tonight's going to be perfect," he said smugly, adjusting his cufflinks. His assistant chuckled. "Even the cleaning lady got an invite," he added jokingly, drawing more laughter from the group. But the laughter faded the moment the double doors at the end of the hall opened. A hush fell over the crowd. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. For a moment, the only sound was the faint echo of heels clicking against the marble floor. Maria Johnson stepped into the room. The golden gown she wore caught the light and shimmered with every movement, as though it were woven from sunlight itself. Her hair framed her face perfectly, her posture poised and regal. Her expression was calm but commanding, not prideful, not defiant, just quietly powerful. Ethan's glass slipped slightly in his hand. "No way," he whispered. His friends exchanged stunned looks, struggling to recognize her. The woman they had mocked, the one who pushed a cleaning cart through their office, looked like she had walked straight out of a magazine cover. The crowd instinctively parted as Maria walked forward, each step deliberate, graceful, and strong. She didn't need an announcement. Her presence alone commanded attention. People whispered, "Who is she?" "She's stunning. She must be someone important." Maria reached the group of executives. The same men who had laughed now stood frozen, their smiles gone, their arrogance replaced by discomfort. Ethan tried to recover his composure, straightening his jacket. "Well, Miss Johnson, you actually came," he said with a forced chuckle. Maria smiled gently, her eyes locked on his. "Of course, Mr. Cross, you did invite me." Her voice carried calm confidence, but there was steel beneath the softness. A ripple of awkward laughter moved through the group, but Maria didn't flinch. She turned toward the nearby guests and greeted them with warm elegance, as though she belonged there. And in truth, she did. As she moved deeper into the ballroom, whispers turned into admiration. People couldn't take their eyes off her. The orchestra seemed to play softer, as if even the music wanted to make room for her presence. Ethan stood speechless, watching her glide through. The crowd, the woman he had once dismissed as invisible, had become the brightest. Light in his entire event, the golden gown she wore caught the light and shimmered with every movement, as though it were woven from sunlight itself. Her hair framed her face perfectly, her posture poised and regal. Her expression was calm but commanding, not prideful, not defiant, just quietly powerful. Ethan's glass slipped slightly in his hand. "No way," he whispered. His friends exchanged stunned looks, struggling to recognize her. The woman they had mocked, the one who pushed a cleaning cart through their office, looked like she had walked straight out of a magazine cover. The crowd instinctively parted as Maria walked forward, each step deliberate, graceful, and strong. She didn't need an announcement. Her presence alone commanded attention. People whispered, "Who is she?" "She's stunning. She must be someone important." Maria reached the group of executives. The same men who had laughed now stood frozen, their smiles gone, their arrogance replaced by discomfort. Ethan tried to recover his composure, straightening his jacket. "Well, Miss Johnson, you actually came," he said with a forced chuckle. Maria smiled gently, her eyes locked on his. "Of course, Mr. Cross, you did invite me." Her voice carried calm confidence, but there was steel beneath the softness. A ripple of awkward laughter moved through the group, but Maria didn't flinch. She turned toward the nearby guests and greeted them with warm elegance, as though she belonged there. And in truth, she did. As she moved deeper into the ballroom, whispers turned into admiration. People couldn't take their eyes off her. The orchestra seemed to play softer, as if even the music wanted to make room for her presence. Ethan stood speechless, watching her glide through the crowd. The woman he had once dismissed as invisible had become the brightest light in his entire event. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of the same high-rise office where it had all begun. The faint hum of the city below mixed with the tapping of keyboards and the shuffle of papers. But something about the atmosphere felt different. Lighter, quieter, almost as if the building itself knew a shift had taken place. Ethan Cross stepped out of the elevator, his usually sharp stride slowed to something more thoughtful. He hadn't slept much. Images from the night before replayed in his mind. Maria's grand entrance, the awe in everyone's eyes, the way she had owned the entire room with grace instead of anger. For the first time in a long while, Ethan had seen what real dignity looked like, and it wasn't dressed in a $1,000 suit. As he walked past the reception area, he glanced toward the hallway that led to the janitor's closet. The cart was gone. The mop bucket, the supplies, and all gone. For a moment, guilt sank in his chest. He half expected to find her there, ready to forgive him with the same quiet strength she always showed. But Maria Johnson didn't belong there anymore. He followed the sound of low conversation coming from the conference room. When he pushed the door open, he froze. Maria was there, but not in her uniform. She sat at the head of the table, wearing a tailored gray dress, her hair perfectly styled, and a folder of sketches spread out before her. Across from her sat the famous designer from the gala, along with Ethan's business partner, both deep in conversation. She looked up, calm and composed. "Good morning, Mr. Cross," she said, her voice even and professional. "I hope you don't mind. Your partner and Mr. Laren here wanted to discuss a potential collaboration. My design seemed to have made quite the impression last night." Ethan hesitated, caught between embarrassment and admiration. I don't mind," he managed. "Actually, I wanted to apologize for how I treated you." Maria studied him for a moment before smiling softly. "Apology accepted," she said. "But don't apologize for seeing me differently now. Just make sure you see others for who they truly are, not for what they do." He nodded, humbled. Then, with a hint of a smile, he said, "I was wondering if you'd consider joining our fashion line. We could use someone with your talent and your heart." Maria closed her folder gently. "A partnership," she said after a pause. "Not a job. I've spent my life working for people who never saw my worth. I think it's time I work with someone who does." Ethan extended his hand. "Deal," he said quietly. She shook it, firm and steady. The same hands that once scrubbed floors now sealed a business agreement that could change her life forever. As she left the conference room, the entire office seemed to pause, employees turning, whispering as she passed. Not in pity, not in surprise, but in respect. She stepped into the elevator, glancing at her reflection in the mirrored walls. Gone was the cleaning lady who once faded into the background. In her place stood a woman who had risen above humiliation, who turned mockery into triumph. When the elevator doors closed, her faint smile lingered. The quiet smile of a woman who didn't just show up like a diva. She showed the world who she truly was,